Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Teen News. Hello. Welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barton. Today, we're going to be talking about Ms. Rachel and how she's ticked off the Christian moms. I think more than Christian moms, but there's plenty of moms who are cool with the route she's taking with, her LGBT stuff. Which apparently, I guess she's had someone non-binary on her show for a minute and has had particular views for a while, but it's come to light, or I guess people have been making a really big deal as of late for a comment that she made on one of Dylan Mulvaney's videos some time ago, saying that, hey, why don't you come on the show or something sometime and sing to the kiddies. And so there's been a lot of talk about that as of late. And so she did a happy Pride Month. So I guess people are really paying attention to that. And so she quoted some Bible verses to affirm her inclusion. And so that's where some people are really set off today. So we'll be talking about that. Also, Hunter Biden's trial is starting, which, I don't know if anyone's expecting a guilty verdict while they're having this, Wilmington, Delaware. I'm not expecting it. Really a guilty verdict, but the man is guilty, man. Oh my, well, everyone deserves a presumption of innocence, but there's just a lot of evidence, and he admitted to the crime in his book. So, there's an issue there. Lots of issues. And we'll talk about some more things. I don't know. Well, I don't plan to actually go about an hour today, because I got some stuff that I do need to take care of. So I might cut things a little short today, but who knows? We'll get to talking and maybe won't be able to stop. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream and run my website. All that stuff you guys can support. I appreciate it. I do have need of a new camera, not a webcam, but like a regular camera. I had one that I would use for a while, and I had it for a long while, and it doesn't work anymore. So that is a need that I have. So if there's people out there who can support in that way, I appreciate it. But you guys can go to the website to donate. You guys can also give stars on Facebook or on YouTube. You guys can do super chats, which I do read, unless they're like unreadable for reasons. Maybe they're gross or something. I don't know, but I usually try to read the super chats. You guys can also check out different merch that we have available at the store, blacktnews.com. Like pro-choice men are sus. That's one of my favorites there. We got other pro-life merch, and we do have some of these XX Woman Club XX lifetime membership and other stuff as well. So go ahead and check out different merch on the website that does support as well. And I don't think I have any like upcoming announcements or events or anything like that to say. I will be going to DC later this month. So I think that will only impact maybe 2 shows, maybe. So that will be in a few, maybe like 2 weeks, I think. So FYI, that's coming up. There's like a big faith evangelical conference. It's going to be in DC, so I will be there with many other Christians around the country to hear and discuss policy and our thoughts and our feelings. And I've got lots of thoughts to share. So many thoughts to share. I don't know how kumbaya I will be, because I've got I don't know. I feel like the church needs to be very stirred in trying to fight and inject morality, not just back into the nation as a whole, but particularly into our own party. So I have some thoughts I'm going to add. So be warned. I looked at the different list of politicians who would be there, And I'm like, "Oh, I hope there's a Q&A. Oh, I hope there's a Q&A because I got questions. I got questions for sure. So I'm looking forward to it, and I look forward to telling you all about it. Certainly. But yeah, that's this month, but it's so that'll I'll be gone for a couple days. So there's some days I won't be streaming when I do that. So just FYI. Anyway, let's hop to it. Let's talk about this Miss Rachel. So to be honest, Miss Rachel is one of the biggest YouTube stars apparently, and she has 10 million followers, and she does like kid broadcasts. I did not know that she was a big sensation. My nieces and my nephew doesn't really watch YouTube. Well, I guess he does. If he does, it's like uh, tutorials on Minecraft stuff. you know, he is going into he's in third grade. He's about to finish third grade, going to fourth grade. Can't believe how much time passes, how fast it goes. But he never watched Miss Rachel. I mean, he liked the Baby Shark stuff, and when he was little, and they'd watch random videos of playing with Ryan's toys. He'd watch Ryan's toys. But Miss Rachel, no, and my nieces never, to my knowledge, watched Miss Rachel. So I certainly wasn't looking for Miss Rachel. So I was out of that loop, and I guess I still am out of that loop. Never sat down and watched her stuff. And I did see her pop up in a video once responding to someone, and I responded to the video, but I just thought it was like a weird woman doing kind of baby content or something, and I replied to her, and that was that. So she went pretty viral, crossing over into my feed as of late because she did a video talking about children starving and in Gaza and other stuff like that. And some people got really mad because she didn't mention Israeli children. It seemed like she was picking a side. And so there's one video that went really viral of this girl basically mimicking her kind of baby talk stuff and teaching about the Israel and Palestine, conflict and other stuff like that. And I didn't feel that her content warranted as much backlash as it got, because there are people saying that she didn't care about certain kids, and there's one video where she's just crying, and then she did another video where she just is singing a song praying for all the children, and it was a pretty cringe. I um but I overall respect her heart on that issue. Even if she just did a post as about, there's people starving in Gaza, but the issue though is because she was going to do some special videos for kids, and with those funds she was going to send them, to Gaza, and aid and food and whatnot. But what people need to understand is that Hamas takes a lot of that aid, that all that money we spend on that pier to ship supplies and stuff, Hamas takes that stuff. So if you really do want to help the people who are in crisis, what needs to happen is the war needs to end, and the war can end if Hamas lays down their arms and surrenders, and you know and the leaders surrender and all that stuff. Otherwise they need to be defeated, because if they are not defeated, they will just launch another war in a few years or so, and we'll be back where we are now. So that's just the reality of the situation. I know people don't want to hear that, but somebody's got to speak reality. So I love people's hearts, that they care for people and their well-being, and none of us want men, women, children, anyone to really suffer, especially needlessly suffer. But I'm not sure that this is needless suffering, because, well, the Hamas is using these people and creating the unnecessary suffering. But the question is, do you reward Hamas, who is stealing aid from these people, and who is using them as human shields, and teach them and the rest of the terror community that this is a proper way to win warfare by using human shields? Is this something that humanity is going to continue tolerating? And I think the only people, I think we would really expect to it to really stop is probably Israel. Because I just, if the U.S. was in a similar situation, you know, I just think we would do things very differently, and we would not take lectures from people. And given past stats of even urban warfare, I think that's pretty accurate. There was a thread by expert that we went through some weeks back that just went through like different urban warfare versus like all the stuff that Israel did to mitigate civilian casualties. And it's pretty remarkable. You don't want one civilian to die, and one is too many. But that's not always the reality of war. So the best thing would be for Hamas to be defeated, because at the end of the day, they will start it up again, and they don't care for their people. They don't care to take care of their people. They don't let their people hide in the terror tunnels that they made. They shoot rockets that don't make it all the way over to Israel and hits their people. You know, they think of them as martyrs, and they use them. So it's a culture of death that doesn't value life, not just the lives of their enemies, but the lives of their people. Like, why would we let them have water? We'd rather dig up those pipes and make more bombs or rockets. That's what's in their mind. Like, why would we want to give them money and build up the infrastructure of these people when we can just go and live in these palaces and all these fancy mansions? That's the world that Hamas has created. So it's a messed up situation. But anyway, her heart on that, I appreciate her heart. I just don't think a lot of people are thinking things through altogether. But as her heart on the issue is fine. So I don't know if that just sparked people's retaliation against Miss Rachel, and people really started digging. But she had some time ago wrote on a Dylan Mulvaney post that she, wanted him to come and sing to the kiddos or do some songs. And so that blew up as of late. And I did a video on it on, TikTok, and I shared on my YouTube shorts. And just to let people know, now I have lots of issues with Dylan. And some of them I laid out in the video and said, this is a man who said that he thinks that misgendering him should be legal. And also that calling him he, him, and a man over and over again he thinks is worse than being called a pedo, which is interesting. And there's also this video that he did. It was like I don't know, this is to the women who don't like me, and he tried to really, I don't know, pull some heartstrings. But at the very end of the video, he's like, and P.S. one day, you just be careful about what you put online, because one day, hopefully real soon in the future, people won't tolerate transphobia. So just remember, your tweets are forever. Okay. So it was a veiled threat. It was, you better shut up if you know what's good for you. And so, he's just not someone doing caricatures of women that are pretty offensive online, but he's someone, some people love them, obviously, for whatever creepy, weird reason people like Dylan. But he is someone has a big platform, who has a lot of influence, has interviewed the president and been interviewed by other celebrities, and wants to move the needle on the culture to get to that point where people like me are bullied into submission and just in silence. Now, that's not going to happen, at least not with me. But other people feel like they can't speak out. There are people whose their jobs would be impacted if they actually did speak out. I've talked to people where they have a lot on the line. So when people are like, oh, they're just living their life, why can't you just leave them alone? It's literally, there's people who don't want to leave you alone. They want to reshape the freaking world. They want to reshape the world, and we can't just like ignore that. And so, of course, Dylan is not actually a woman, and just in principle, I don't think that people should affirm the lie. I think it's immoral to lie. But Dylan himself is bigger than like a standard person who, feels that living out their life as a woman is the way to bring them the most kind of comfort in their body where they feel discomforted. He's a big player in all this. So having him come on the show trigger or just inviting him to come on the show that's focused toward little children is pretty disturbing to lots of people. Very disturbing. So anyway, Miss Rachel did a video for Pride, and Miss Rachel has had someone who's non-binary on her show, so it's not really new, the LGBT stuff. But a lot of times parents, they zone out, so I don't know how much. So people are like, why do you guys talk about this? She's always had this stuff. There's parents who don't know, and when you tell them, they do appreciate being told. Sometimes they're like, oh, my baby likes this, let me dump them in front of the TV while I go do some dishes or something like that. Lots of parents do that. It's not necessarily a great thing to do, but sometimes people trust different people, that they're going to have appropriate stuff on the TV or whatever. My parents would sometimes pop in a Disney movie and go about their business, whatever. So parents will do that. So sometimes stuff sneaks by, that maybe your kids really shouldn't be watching or paying attention, that you would not want them to see. So I think it's at least, important to let parents know that's going on, even if it's something that's been going on. Maybe they missed it. So just to talk about it is a good thing, I think. But I think Dylan, though, is particularly infuriates people because of reasons that I listed, but also because he comes off as such a caricature of women, doing negative, sort of like his first days of girlhood video was like, oh, I cried too much, and I was started writing email I never sent, and it just really, really super caricature stereotypes of women. And that lessened over the years, but then he released a music video, which we talked about, that still relied on many harmful stereotypes of, I guess, women. But I'm like, most of the stuff that he said in his song as his days of girlhood, he probably did as a gay man. So I'm confused why this is in a video about your days of girlhood. If you needed to become a girl to get hooked on prescription drugs, what do you think that says about women or your process, or what the transition has actually done to you? So anyway, Miss Rachel did a Pride video, and folks weren't too happy about it. And go ahead and show that to you guys. And then she did a follow-up video, which I replied to. We will talk about that as well.
Happy Pride to all of our wonderful families and friends. This month and every month, I celebrate you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're exactly who you are. To those who are going to comment they can't watch the show anymore because of the support, no worries and much love your way. God bless. I am not chasing fame or views. I'm standing strong in love.
So she said, deuces, bye. So, um, I guess her saying God bless. Now, I didn't see any people responding to her video. I originally was going to respond to this one because I'm like, God bless. Oh, she bringing God into this. So I was about to break out some scriptures and other stuff like that. But she did a follow up before I got the chance to respond. So apparently, what it seemed like to her, according to at least the video that she responded to this with, her follow up, is that people heard God bless and they thought she meant it kind of like, I don't know, like a little bit of shade, like ironically or something along those lines. So she followed up with this video.
I've shared prayers on here before and said, God bless. And that's because my faith is really important to me. And it's also one reason why I love every neighbor. In Matthew 22, a religious teacher asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And Jesus says to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. There's no greater commandments than these. I believe it's mentioned 8 times, love your neighbor. So, yes, everyone belongs, everyone's welcome, everyone is treated with empathy and respect. It doesn't say love every neighbor except. There are so many reasons I stand strong in love. I stand with everyone. That's who I am. And the love back and the God bless if you disagree is genuine.
So I don't know why um she said love God and love your neighbor is the greatest commandment. No, it was the answer was the first greatest commandment, the second greatest commandment. So they're not on even playing field. They're not on even playing field. So the first one is to love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And the Bible says this is the first greatest commandment. That. So it's love God first, right? That's the most important thing. Which Jesus also said, if you love me, keep my commandments. So you can say that you love someone, but your actions will show how you love someone. And Jesus laid it out like, if you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, feed my sheep. That's what Jesus said. Okay? So you can say that, oh, the greatest commandments and that you love God. Do your actions show that? Ladies, think about maybe some time a guy told you that they loved you, or fellas, think about a time that a woman might have told you that they loved you. Did you know that to be the case by their actions? If you're, fortunate, and that's great that they back that up, but a lot of people, even before they find the right one, maybe they found someone who, spoke a lot but didn't really show it in their actions. So you actually have to like keep the commandments, but you love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. That's the first one. So the second greatest one that follows that is love your neighbor. All right? Don't kill your neighbor. Don't steal from your neighbor. Don't covet from your neighbor. Don't get adultery with your neighbor. Don't you know? Treat your neighbor right. But the Bible also talks about what love is. Love is not affirmation. And that's what I said in my video, that love is not affirmation, because love, yeah, it's patient, it's kind, all that stuff. But it gets to the point where the Bible also says that love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but it rejoices in the truth. So if you are going to take someone's hand and walk with them down a road that is contrary to the path that God would have them on, would like for them to be on, and you're leading them and you're walking with them and you're talking ever so sweetly on their pathway to hell, I would not say that's you loving your neighbor. I would not say that's loving at all. Not in the least bit. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to want to walk with them on a pathway to hell. And I said that we're supposed to love them out of hell, not cradle them into it. So, yes, love your neighbor, but love your neighbor by sharing the gospel with them. Love your neighbor by teaching them truth. Love your neighbor by being an example, an upright example yourself. And you can, and I'm not saying go out there and be mean to anyone that you disagree with. I'm not saying that you go out there and you just start hitting people upside the head with Bibles. I'm not saying that you go out there and just start, you're going to hell and you're going to hell and don't do that. And you know what? When I was young, you're going to hell was like my catchphrase. And I look back at that, like we had a women's Bible study um on Saturday, and so I got to deliver the word. We went to this nice little local cafe, and I had a chai tea with some shot of vanilla and cinnamon. It was very good. And I delivered the word, and so I was talking about Apostle Paul and his conversion, and but after I talked about Apostle Paul and his conversion, I started talking about um gosh, the comedian, gosh, what's his name? Russell Brand. Russell Brand. Because Russell Brand, when I was younger and he was in his like hedonistic days and just doing his comedian thing, I did not like Russell Brand for many, I would say, legitimate reasons. And I remember, he was sleeping around, doing drugs, all kinds of different stuff. And he said that he was going to pay people with evidence that the Jonas Brothers weren't virgins. And this was at a time where they're going around taking like an oath of purity and wearing purity rings and stuff. And he's like, I'll pay for anyone who can prove that these guys aren't virgins. And I was so disgusted with that myself, young person, well, still living, a life of chastity and stuff. So I was just so disgusted with him, disgusted about his comments about God and the way that he lived and stuff. And my kind of mindset was like, this guy is like, I don't like, I was against him. And again, I didn't like him because of um I think legitimate reasons, but I was so offended on behalf of God. And so now I'm looking at videos where he's a Christian and he's reading Mere Christianity, a C.S. Lewis book, with people and sharing it with people and talking about how he got baptized and talking about how he you know went to Pentecost Sunday, which is great. I had to miss Pentecost Sunday because I had a convention that weekend. I was like, oh my gosh, we got to miss Pentecost Sunday. But he was there, he was in church. And he's sharing with people the stuff that he learned. And so I said, I'm so glad for him. But in the past, I had to admit I didn't pray for that man. I was just against him, but I didn't pray for him. And so so I was feeling conviction, reflecting back, and I hope that other people felt conviction, at least when I was delivering the word, to just rethink how we think about Christianity and our outreach to other people who are lost, and don't just be so high and mighty or whatever, but really, like, when I would go around saying, yeah, they're going to hell, like if they continued on that path, that was probably a pretty good, guess I was making when I said it about certain people. But I would say that, serious, but a little bit of with amusement, whatever. And I'm like, but that's someone's soul on the line. And to not be more grieved about that. Apostle Paul was grieved for people, his Jewish brethren, for not accepting Christ. And he said he'd be willing to give up his own salvation to see them saved. That's not something that, people feel or emulate. So, I don't want people to be all, oh, mad at the people who aren't, walking in the ways of God, and to feel so high and mighty against them. One of my favorite videos that I saw, I don't remember which TikToker said this, and I don't even remember all what the subject was about, but it was a Christian video. And at the end of the video, he said, I'm just a beggar telling another beggar where to get a piece of bread. And it was just so good. It was so good because I'm nothing special. I just happen to get a break. I just happen to find the love of God. And I just want to share that with you. I just want to tell you how you can get the same thing as well. And there's one video that he did maybe about a year or two ago. And I did not delete it off TikTok, but I could not find it. I had to look on my Instagram. And it's about 10 minutes long. There was this guy who identified as a Christian, but he's still living out, as in his homosexuality quite openly. And so his reasoning was kind of like, I believe God would want me to be happy, and if I'm wrong, I'll find out one day. And I'm like, that is not a good way to go through life. But I broke it down in a very general way and didn't even address it like for like same-sex attraction, because not everyone, whether you're same-sex attracted or attracted to someone of the opposite sex, not all of our desires are things that God lays out as something that is good. Like if you're attracted to someone who is someone else's wife or someone else's husband, that it doesn't matter how much you think that you love them. Loving your neighbor isn't breaking up a family and running away so you two can be together. that just because you care for them, you have strong affections towards someone, isn't you actually showing them love when you lead them down a path that's contrary to what God has for you. So anyway, I don't want people to be all super aggressive and stuff about what this um as you push back on like Miss Rachel or other messages like that, but it is important to at least still preach the gospel. And she opened that door by using the Bible. Once she opened that door, I'm like, I'm going to reply because I don't want people to think and echo this sentiment that simply loving your neighbor is just being nice to them, or it's just affirming their lifestyle or their worldview, and not leading them down some kind of path of repentance and lead in a road that will lead to a more abundant life. So Miss Rachel Blank, you have to love. It doesn't say love everyone except. It says love your neighbor. Yeah, but you don't affirm every neighbor's sin. You, and I mean, that's just really the gist of it. I mentioned how Penn Jillette, he's an atheist, and he says he doesn't respect Christians who don't proselytize, like preach and witness and stuff, um, whether you ask for it or not. Because he said if you really believed, and this is someone who doesn't believe in the gospel. He said if you really believed that there hell was waiting for people, but you had the answer to everlasting life and you could save them, like why how much do you have to hate someone to not share the gospel with them? And he said if there was a truck barreling at you and you're trying to warn somebody to get out the way, he's like eventually you're probably going to push them to the ground. I saw someone comment said, nah, everybody wouldn't push them to the ground. That's true, not everybody would do that. But if you knew that present oncoming danger was coming at that person, would you want to do everything in your power to save them? So if you're going to just conform to the ways of the world, or if you're just going through life trying to be accepted and you like how conforming makes you feel because you get all the praise and the accolades from people and they're like, oh, you're so tolerant, you're so kind, etc., or nice and kind are not the same thing. But I can understand why people want to walk down that path, but that's not what we're supposed to do. Again, and some people, most people in my comments from the video that I posted agreed with me and were like, "Oh, thank you for articulating this particular way." And there were some people like, "There's like 4,000 religions and all these gods. Not everybody agrees with you." I'm like, I'm replying to someone who quoted the Bible. So again, Ms. Rachel opened the door. She opened the door, so I walked through it. And you're not going to use the scriptures and just, think nobody's going to have a response. And some people cited Matthew was like, judge not. And I'm like, I love that passage because it actually teaches how to judge righteously. It doesn't say don't judge at all. It teaches how to judge righteously. And so someone was like, well, you're not righteous. I'm like, how'd you come up with that judgment? When people say don't judge, they just mean don't judge me. And what's funny about all that is I don't have to make a judgment on what is right and wrong. God already did that. God already did that. So I'm not the one making up the rules on what's sin and what's not sin. We can just look to the word. All right? So whether we're talking about, different sexual immorality stuff or we're talking about lying and thieving and adultery or whatever, like we can just look to the word, guys. So I don't have to make a judgment about that. But people who think that we're not supposed to judge at all, they make judgments when they come at people talking about this stuff. Also, there's a whole entire book of judges. So it's just to believe that we're not supposed to make some kind of assessments, any kind of moral assessments. It's just silly. It's just silly. And some people were saying things like, "Oh, you guys can't just leave people alone, and that's why people don't like Christians." Look, Again, she's the one who brought it up. I just responded. But again, if we're talking about people like Dylan Mulvaney wants to create a world where people cannot say what they actually think, what they actually believe, because they will be so in fear of the backlash of folks who've allied with the trans community. That's the kind of world they're building. So I can't just ignore that. I, and you know what? Back in 2008, I've mentioned this before. Back in 2008, when they had the gay marriage law that was struck down, gay marriage was made illegal in California by a ballot initiative, and I was surprised. I really was. I'm like, California? What? I was really surprised. But the campaign to stop gay marriage in California was running these commercials saying, if you make gay marriage legal, then they'll teach it in the schools. And the campaign that was trying to make gay marriage keep it legal was like, no, that's not true. They're lying. They're lying. No, we'd never. And so anyway, gay marriage got struck down in California. And then the Supreme Court ruling ended up, coming into effect. So it became legal everywhere in America. And what is happening? Now we're talking about pornographic material in schools. And when we say, hey, we don't want that stuff in the schools, people say, why are you attacking the LGBT community? I'm like, Genderqueer is a gross book. This book is gay is a gross book. Why are you guys acting like it's your entire identity if we can't have books with blowjobs in the in the freaking library for the kids? Why does this offend you so much if we take it out? There's groups like Gays Against Groomers who stand up against this stuff, who don't want there to be some kind of epic backlash with people pushing stuff too far. But let's be honest, the Christians who were like slippery slope, were they wrong? In California, there was a I don't think it was a state thing, but I think there's at least a district thing there that they were trying to do some stuff in the curriculum for like sex education, and they had some same-sex stuff in there, and they're like, and no, you cannot opt out. Like, you can't opt out. Parents can't opt out of the sex education stuff. No, it's just, you will sit here and you will learn. It's just a far cry from what they claimed would happen. It's a far cry. But they will teach this in schools if it passes. That's why you got crossover. Because of course, there's a lot of Republicans in California, but obviously they're very outnumbered by Democrats. There's a lot of Christians in California, but there's a lot of people who don't mind that stuff, I guess, from California. But the minorities were like, nah, we're not cool with that. Especially Black people, like, nah, we're good. But there were Democrats who obviously crossed over to vote against gay marriage because they did not. They're like, hey, we actually don't care if you guys do it in the bedroom, but when you guys want to bring it over to our families and teach it in school, like we don't. That's too far. And so now you got a couple of years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, you had the song "We're Coming for Your Children" that came out. You had Chris Evans mad about the Lightyear movie, talking about, I can't wait till these people die out like dinosaurs. Very classy, Chris. Wonder why I know it's all your movie. Then you have, there was a video the other day with a woman saying, that we will take your kids and they will become like us. So, which I will have to reply to some people's comments with those videos. She's like, you guys are acting like if they see this stuff, then they'll just turn. Well, some of the gender identity stuff, it depends on the kids, because there is a social contagion aspect to it. Yeah, absolutely. You got to watch out for that stuff. You got to watch your own kid. And you start getting stuff in kids' minds, and then the people saying stuff at different schools, And then all of a sudden they're trying to take your kid away from you. And I'm not being hyperbolic. This has happened many times. So there's a reason why people don't want to just affirm, because affirm beyond like a spiritual thing, there's a militant takeover sort of spirit in the land. It's way beyond we want to live the life our way, you know. It's way beyond I feel uncomfortable in my body, this is what I feel is best for me. It's no, you have to affirm me, where it's hate speech. It's you have to let the boy in the girls locker room or we're going to take away your school funding. It's girls losing records to boys, to men. And it's just happening over and over and over again. Too much. Title IX being rewritten. So you're trying to change the culture. We understand that. We understand you're trying to change the culture. We are not blind. And so it's either we push back or we become consumed. I'm sorry, I don't like how far society's gone, where you got dudes pumping themselves full of so much hormones so they can have a surrogate or somebody give them a baby and then try to feed them whatever white substance is leaking from their man boob. I saw a video today of a girl at a pride event showing off her double mastectomy scars and people just cheering. And she mutilated herself. I'm sorry, we've gone too far. If someone started showing their self-inflicted scars, will we just clap and say, oh yeah, she's doing what makes herself feel good? We've gone too far. Sorry. So I'll say it. I will say it. And I know some people are like, oh, darn it, I love Miss Rachel. Well, if this is too far, block her. It would be too far for me. And I had never really heard her. I didn't think my nieces knew about her. So I mentioned to one of my sisters, like, oh no, we already know. But they never watched Miss Rachel. But they try to leak that everywhere, man. But we've gone too far. We've gone too far. So again, Miss Rachel, absolutely love everybody. Absolutely love everybody. But if you want to protect someone's feelings so much that you're willing to kind of just, again, cradle them straight into hell, I don't think that's love, bruh. Maybe you're talking about some kind of worldly love. But if you're talking about like a biblical sense of love, since you did quote the Bible, no, love does not rejoice in wrongdoing. I saw this one comment on my video. Someone said, God would just want us to be happy as long as we're not hurting each other. You know, God would just want us to be happy. One thing about Paul, because I mentioned that I preached about him on last Saturday, the Bible, God said that I've called him to suffer. God can make you happy. He desires to make you happy. Absolutely. And I believe that God is the one who can truly make you happy. There's things about yourself I don't think you'll ever find out unless you let the Lord lead you down a path to really discover who you are. Absolutely, I believe that. But we're supposed to find peace in him, and a lot of people chase happiness, and it's usually short-term gratification sort of happiness. And you look down the road one day and what you have isn't real, and all those things will pass away. But we need to be seeking truth. That's the thing we need to be seeking. Like if I told my sister, hey, I'm making enchiladas tonight, she's in the chat. I don't know if she's still here, but I saw she was in the chat. That would make her happy. Enchiladas ain't gonna save her soul. I do make banger enchiladas. I make really good enchiladas, but my enchiladas aren't going to lead anyone to the truth unless there's a Bible study that follows it or something. But she said, "When are you making enchiladas?" Um, mm, I don't know. I don't know. Sometime soon, I guess. They are really good enchiladas. But Jesus said to deny yourself. So there's things he said the Bible says that your heart is deceitful. So there's things that we chase after that we think that we want, and we're deceiving ourselves. But Jesus said to deny yourself. Jesus said to crucify your flesh. And Jesus didn't say that he came to bring peace. He said he came to bring a sword. He's causing division between people, shaking up some stuff. So that all this kumbaya stuff just isn't true. And people don't believe that anyway. These people with these coexist bumper stickers, they don't believe it. Because as soon as you don't agree with them, they're ready to come at you. I didn't say anything hateful in my little video that's like a minute and 30 seconds. And people, there's no hate like Christian love, or no love like Christian hate, or whatever. And like, why do you got to be so hateful? I didn't say a single hateful thing in that minute and 30 seconds of my video. But just because you hate what people say doesn't mean they're being hateful. It doesn't mean that they're being hateful. It's like that scene from The Office with Michael, and he's like, it was a hate crime, and like it wasn't a hate crime, Michael. And they're like, well, I hated it. Life doesn't work like that. I know people want it to work like that, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So if you say something that bumps up against someone's feelings, what they believe to be true, you're a hateful person. It's not that people want you to coexist, it's that they want you to comply. They want you to comply. So I just, again, I think we've gone too far in a lot of things. We have. And if you care about people, you want right done to them and right done for them. And again, I want to stress, I'm not saying go out there and cause havoc in somebody's life and beat them over the head with a Bible. But I encourage people to not really be against people so much, but to pray that people don't get what they deserve, but to get what they need. Oh, God, get them. No, pray that they have that road to Damascus moment like Apostle Paul had, where the scales fall from their eyes. Pray that they have that encounter with Christ. That's what we need to pray. And I'm not saying you don't need to speak, but you need to pray too. It's easy to pop off at the mouth for a minute and 30 seconds. To really take time and intercede for somebody, that takes some time. That takes some more effort. So, anyway, Miss Rachel, she has 10 million followers. And again, she already has someone who's non-binary on her show. She may be like, screw everybody, I'm going to have Dylan on the show. I mean, she said something to him like in 2023. It wasn't even this year, I believe. So he hasn't been on the show yet. That doesn't mean that he won't. It's disturbing that she even asked. But she's already in the LGBT pocket. A mutual friend of mine on TikTok was upset because she said we're done with Miss Rachel and we haven't for a while. But she was really upset because Miss Rachel said stuff for the LGBT community, but she didn't acknowledge Mother's Day. And I'm like, oh, that's That's interesting. And I guess she didn't acknowledge it this year or the year before. And she's like, and moms are the what made you, and you don't acknowledge how important moms are on Mother's Day, but you make sure that you say something on, for the LGBT month or whatever. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to. I'm not that invested in Miss Rachel, but so maybe I won't do this. But I'm like, I wonder if there's something for Black History Month to be like, oh, everybody's like LGBT. So I'm like, where's your Black History Month post? I don't know if she has or she didn't, but I don't know if someone else wants to do that. I don't know if I'm that invested to go scroll through her stuff like that. But um, so she says, she doesn't care. She doesn't do this for the money, and she has a lot of followers. I don't know if people saying stuff on TikTok and people saying stuff on some YouTube accounts or whatever is going to cause a great mass exodus for Miss Rachel, that it's going to cut down her subscribers significantly. I don't know that, but I like to at least let people know. And moms will say, thank you for telling me. Like I told people about Blue's Clues and their pride parade, their drag queen leading a pride parade thing. And parents told me, thank you very much for letting me know. So that's why I did it. But she opened this door when she used that scripture, though. I had to say something. And you know what? I was really blessed because someone commented and said that they were a lesbian who was coming to the Lord and that this word really hit hard. And so I was like, oh, well, praise the Lord. Because you never know how the Lord might use you. So I just, sent replied to her. I'm like, well, the Lord's got you, sis. But there's a lot of people on TikTok and other apps who, have become Christian, who had same-sex attraction and who are living celibate lives or no longer have same-sex attraction. So God bless her on her journey. Anyway, I guess we're already about at an hour, guys. So I guess we'll talk about more of this tomorrow as we read different updates about the Hunter Biden trial, which okay. The I don't know if my screen went blank for a second for me, but that's why I said Hunter Biden's trial start today for his gun charge. The Biden DOJ already tried to get him off with a sweetheart deal for the gun charge, that he'd have to like go to rehab or something, and basically his tax charges would go away. And the judge was like, what is this? And it just kind of blew up. So people saying that he's going on trial and it's all even handed. Oh, justice works, blah, blah, blah. The Biden DOJ already tried to give him a free pass. So please do not forget about that. But they are having the trial in Wilmington, Delaware, where they're all from, so I just don't think that it's just going to be a hard uphill battle with all those folks being like, yep, he's guilty, even though he clearly did the crime. So he lied on the form. When you fill out a form for a gun, he said that he wasn't on any kind of drugs and stuff. And that wasn't true. As a matter of fact, like the same week he was setting up a drug deal, there's evidence for that. But he wrote in his book about his drug addiction and stuff. So he basically, they're going to use his words against him on the stand. And there's text messages and other things that prove that he clearly broke this law. And I think it's an important thing to talk about because you do have President Biden who's so stuck on trying to limit gun access for Americans. And he says there's no amendment is absolute, but yet you have your son who you tried to help get off on this gun charge, etc. So he clearly did it. People have the presumption of innocence, but he clearly did he clearly did it. But I don't expect him to go to jail or anything like that. Absolutely not. I don't. Mm-mm. it would be an injustice for him not to. Like, he clearly did it, but I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. So surprised. But anyway, the important thing is they already tried to get him off. They already tried it. Um Another thing I heard, I was talking to someone who works for the Trump campaign, or kind of the Trump campaign, but and they're talking about how, because of how much money they raised since the conviction of Trump, which his trial was crazy, but and we won't go into all the reasons and stuff why, but basically what they accused him of was a misdemeanor and need to be connected to a different crime, and they're trying to say that he violated FEC filing and stuff, and but according to Brad Smith, who's FEC commissioner, definitely did not violate anything there, but I'm sure he'll win an appeal eventually. I don't know if he'll win the first one up, but eventually the conviction will probably be overturned. But they raised so much money that they're already planning on doing more expansion on different like ground game outreaches, because they've raised so much over the weekend. So um I I don't know at the end of the day if the Democrats were expecting that people would stop donating and giving all that kind of stuff to Trump. But Trump, you know, they were having fundraising issues, and now people are writing huge checks, cutting huge checks, not just to Trump, but other groups like Turning Point, etc. People are dishing out checks because they're passionate about trying to win, because they do see that Trump was unfairly treated. So they've revitalized the Republicans in such an interesting way. If they really didn't want Trump to be president, they could have just ignored him. That would have been the most appropriate thing to do. Unfortunately, I believe that they really wanted him to be the nominee, so um they piled on all this stuff while he was obviously going to be the nominee, and hoping that eventually it would just knock him out and tie up all the money and make him too busy to campaign and stuff. But fortunately for Trump, he's already been the president, so people know what his presidency would be like. They, he has extraordinarily high name ID, so some of the money that you have to spend on campaigns, uh, usually you're trying to get people to know who you are, but people's already experienced Trump. People already know him, so he does need money for stuff, certainly, but he doesn't have the struggles that normal campaigns would have. Of course, obviously he has struggles that normal campaigns would normally have too, but but they just fed him a bunch of money, man. This is a, you know and they fed the narrative of him being a victim. You should, like, it's rigged, they're coming against me, they're coming against me, and they kept coming against him, you know? So whether you think that people do come against him for no reason or not, he's kind of like a hypochondriac actually getting sick. Like, aha, I told you. So they gave him exactly what he wanted. So lots of interesting things going on, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. Oh gosh, my sister wrote more about enchiladas. All right, Christine, I'm out of here. Please prepare yourself to make enchiladas this week. Just because I invoke the enchiladas doesn't mean that they're going to manifest into reality. But I do make really good enchiladas. I do. But and I really like them too. I really enjoy them. But they don't take terribly too long. When I first started making them, it took about 2 hours to make, and I got it down. I do it faster, quite faster now. But I'm busy living life, so I don't always want to do it. But maybe I'll do it. My website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff. I do have some different needs. Like I said, I need to get a new camera and stuff. So people, if you can support, the Bible says have not because you ask not. So I'm just throwing it out there in case someone is touched and blessed and would like to help in that kind of way. So you guys can also check out different merch. Also, I do write books if you're unaware of that. I have many books that are out. I have 18 altogether. One of them is a pre-order right now. It's my sequel to The Dark Mermaid called The Sea Witch. And I'm going to pull it up real quick. I don't have a image. So I'm going to go to my website real quick, ninjadustpublishing.com. If you go to blacktnews.com, there's a banner on the merchandise page. It'll take you to my book website, but my book website is ninjadustpublishing.com. And so that's my new release, the Sea Witch. So it's in this Cursed Moon series. So the Dark Mermaid is the first one, and the Sea Witch is the second one. So you can pre-order the Sea Witch right now. So it's available at Amazon. So I encourage you guys to check that out. So yeah, you can read some more about it and pre-order it if you go to that website. But if you just go to Amazon, there's a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube that says like support my books or see my books or something like that, and it should take you to like an Amazon influencer page where my books and stuff will be there. So that's an easy way to find my stuff too. But yeah, that'll be out on Monday, which is my birthday. So I encourage you guys to check it out. Anyway, thank you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.